So what is a certificate of analysis? A certificate of analysis is a document that's provided by a laboratory that says they tested a particular sample, and in the cannabis and hemp space, that sample can be gummies, pre-rolls, flour, a drink, any type of product that contains hemp or cannabis, right? That's in this space. But technically, you can send any product to a lab to be tested for a particular molecule or set of molecules, generally pesticides, metals, etc. So in the manufacturing space, a certificate of analysis is very important. So the certificate of analysis is going to tell you exactly what's in the product that was tested. And there are a couple things that's going to be of importance, right? So the actual laboratory that did the test, the customer of record, which is generally the manufacturer, but it could be a customer that retests. This one shows Durban Dames. We are a manufacturer, a licensed manufacturer, so we have all batches of our products tested. So the name and address is there. You'll see ID information, which is not of importance. Sample name, that's the name given to the sample by the manufacturer. Batch number, and again, a certificate is for an entire batch. So say, for instance, you make cookies at home. If you are a manufacturer, a legal manufacturer, you would have to send a sample of that batch of cookies to be tested. Now, the receive date is the date the laboratory received the sample. The CoA release date is after the sample was tested. This is the date that they released the full analysis. Then you jump into the good stuff. Cannabinoid profile. This is where you start to get the data that, behind the test, right? What were the results of the test? So cannabinoid profile, again, this is a hemp and or cannabis product. You'll always have cannabinoid profile. Analyte is the actual molecule, cannabinoids in this instance, that was being tested in the sample. Then you have your LOQ percentage. LOQ is the limit of quantitation. That's the lowest concentration of a substance that the particular machine of that lab can test and get an actual accurate measurement. For a particular machine within the lab, particular analyte would have to be higher than this limit before this machine can read it. Okay, so let's be clear. Now, it'll give you the actual amount, but the actual amount has to be higher. In this instance, CBC would have to be higher than 0.01%. Okay, then you have the percent to weight. This particular analyte, this molecule has this percent to the full weight of the product, which in this instance was a gummy. So it's the percent of CBC to the weight of that gummy. And then you have that converted to milligrams per gram. So how much CBC in milligrams compared to a gram of the sample, and then the milligram per unit being the full gummy. So how many milligrams of CBC was in the full gummy? Okay, so let's move on. This is going to be, again, all of the molecules we're testing for. This is going to be consistent here. The lowest amount that had to be present for the machine to pick it up, percent by weight, milligrams, and milligrams per gram, milligrams for the entire unit. Again, that's the picture of the actual sample. This is of no importance once you understand exactly what it is. This is where we start to get what's in this particular sample. So in terms of CBD, there is 0.027% by weight of CBD found in this sample, which is 0.272 milligrams for every gram weight of this gummy. Okay, which means if you can take this data and divide by this, and you can understand how, and it'll give you the actual weight of the gummy. However, this is saying in the entire gummy, right, the milligrams per unit in one gummy, there was 1.62 milligrams of CBD, right? So now this is going to be the important column for us. CBDA. This is saying non-detect, ND, non-detect. There was no CBDA found in the gummy. And that makes sense because when you manufacture candy, the sugar has to get very hot, which means the acidic molecule will burn off of the cannabinoid, and it's converted from CBDA, which is the natural cannabinoid found in cannabis. It's converted to CBD, right? So non-detect CBDV, CBDG non-detect, CBN is a weird cannabinoid, not weird, but it's an interesting cannabinoid because once THC gets old or oxidized, it will convert to CBN. At least that's what we know today. Now, data may change. All right, and Delta 8 THC, another one I'll explain in a moment. Delta 9 THC, then THCA. Again, THCA is the acidic form of THC. This is natural to the cannabis and hemp plant. Once it is exposed, THCA is exposed to heat, light, or over time, an extended amount of time, it will convert, and there's a ratio when you start talking about time and heat, etc. This is why you heat up your hemp or your product to activate it. So THCA is non-psychoactive. THC is psychoactive, right? So they're obviously testing, but once this is heated up, and obviously it was a gummy sample, it converts to THC, right? So in a 10 milligram gummy, this is Durban Dame's 10 milligram gummies, the amount of THC is 8.35. Non-detect for THCA, non-detect for THCV. That means the total cannabinoids, right? And in this particular gummy, we have 9.96. Make sure you guys can see that. Total milligrams per gummy. Right? So that's why this particular column gives you the data that you're looking for. Which cannabinoids are going to be found in that particular batch per unit, and then how much, right? So this is critical. I want you guys to understand this. This is very important. So when you decide which edible or drink or anything that's infused with cannabis, you understand how to read it and know how much of each cannabinoid works for you. Now, I want my customer base to understand which cannabinoids work best for them and in what quantities, right? But you need to not only request a CoA, but know how to read it. Cannabis and hemp is known to have over 120 different cannabinoids and over 400 different molecules, which includes fats and terpenes, which are very important. The cannabis plant is amazing. So in terms of the cannabinoids, this is going to say what was the result, what was found in this particular sample, percent units, and then milligrams per gram weight, right? And then again, we have what's the LOQ. The other important thing are metals. It's important to show that there are no harmful molecules in the sample or product, right? And that's where the metals come in. So for metals, the machine can detect 0.2, right? Parts per million. 0.2 parts per million. Now the LOD is the limit of detection. This is the actual lowest amount that is detectable before the equipment can distinguish that and even pick up that particular particle. Okay? In part 2 of How to Read a CoA, we'll discuss metals and pesticides. So stay tuned.